Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and one-shots make PvP very much exciting, but also very much broken. World of Warcraft PvP for the longest time has been all about one-shots, trying to just obliterate the other person as quickly as possible. Currently, one-shots are very hard to come by. The term one-shot came from vanilla, where you basically destroyed the other player in a single global cooldown. The modified and the more contemporary version of the word one-shot basically means where you chunk someone's health in a few global cooldowns. That means you don't actually take him out in a single global cooldown, although that is very much still possible. But it's where you chunk their health in a few globals. So what I'm going to be doing today is looking at some classes in the game currently for PvP that can chunk health. So let's get on to the criteria for the class we're looking for and take a look at the classes that made the list. So the things we're going to be looking for are classes that can chunk in a few globals. Basically, maybe in a few presses of buttons, get your enemy's health from 100 to maybe down to 25. Second, we're looking for classes whose primary mechanic it is to chunk. So you don't actually have to spec a specific playstyle just to do this. Your main mechanic of how you PvP is chunking type of damage. Another thing we'll be looking at is complexity. They need to be as least complex as possible. We're looking for some easy chunks, we're not looking for anything crazy or complex. Basically, the whole core of the class is to chunk, and the ones that can do it the easiest are probably the ones that can do it the most efficient. Now Dalaran, what is the purpose of this video? And I guess it is just something for you to do while you wait for Legion. Legion is going to be a while from now. Before we even play Legion, we'll all be able to see the World of Warcraft movie, but that's going to be not until summer. And what a lot of people say while waiting for the next expansion is, well, I am getting burnt out, I'm gonna play other games, and then by the time they're back, maybe the interest with World of Warcraft and the hype has died out by then. So this is for anybody who just can't walk away from the game, a lot like myself, but also wants to still have some fun, maybe some mindless fun and doing just something simple, something cool, nothing serious, maybe just go on BGs and blow up some fools. So this is something for you guys, hopefully you guys enjoy, and let's get on to the list. The first class on the list is a Demonology Warlock. Demo Warlocks can deal an insane amount of damage in BGs and arenas, both competitively and recreationally, and the setup for them isn't too high. All you need to make sure is you have Demon Fury up and that you're running Demon Bolt. What really is the core of this mechanic is to make sure you have some resources to work with, pop your trinkets, pop your coolies, and then apply Demon Bolt into your enemy. You can actually stack Demon Bolt higher and higher, so it'll deal more damage, but it'll cost more resources every time you hit an enemy with. But even if you hit your opponent with a little baby Demon Bolt, you're still going to chunk their health. That's what makes this spec really scary and puts it on the list. The damage you can do with Demon Bolt is already pretty high, but the fact that it can be even higher is actually a little bit scary, but also must be a lot of fun playing a Warlock. The next class on the list is a Destruction Warlock. I know I have two Warlocks back to back, but Destruction Warlock definitely chunks health. Thank God the Chaos Bolts from Pandaria retained and transitioned into Warlords of Draenor. While Destruction Warlock did lose a lot of its main capabilities that made it really viable and really fun to play back in Pandaria, the Chaos Bolt still retained the same and still dominates in terms of damage, especially in random BGs and even arenas. A single Chaos Bolt can turn a losing situation into a winning situation, which is why Warlocks are in the spot. The Chaos Bolts are fairly easy to use, they will always hit hard, and the lineup is very simple to put together. Basically, a class that's very tanky, has really good self-healing, has amazing burst damage, and even an execute mechanic. If you want to see some real melee chunking, you want to turn to Fury Warriors. They're probably the only class whose main mechanic in both arenas and BGs for competitive PvP is to literally one-shot your enemy in a few globals. What makes the spec powerful is the fact that it runs Avatar for more damage, gives up Fear for Siegebreaker for increased damage during the burst, waits patiently for all your procs and all your cooldowns to be available, and then use everything in a single go, literally using up all of your resources and all of your coolies just to finish off an opponent. Not only is it deadly, but it is the main way to play Fury Warrior for competitive PvP, so your whole main mechanic is to chunk your enemy to death, which is very much exciting and fun to play. The next on the list is the Marksman Hunter, and I refer to the name Hunter as a means of endearment. Hunters for the longest time have been called Hunters by the WoW community because Hunters have been the easier spec or have been claimed to be the easiest spec to play. They usually have good damage, they usually have a viable spec for PvE and PvP, so you'll always want it in a raid, And you also have a pet to protect you when you're questing or leveling or whatever. But when you choose to give up your pet for the talent of Lone Wolf and you decide to play Marksman Hunter, then Power Shot into Chimera literally means damage. Wherever you hit are going to be a kill target afterwards, because everybody in a random BG will turn them. Not the strongest spec for arenas or competitive PvP, but definitely a lot of fun in random battlegrounds. Now I want to go over some honorable mentions, the first one starting with mages. Now technically all 3 specs of mages can deal chunking damage, but that means they have to spec Prismatic Crystal. We're looking for classes whose main mechanic it is to chunk damage. While Frost mages, Arcane mages, and Fire mages do have some hard-hitting abilities, none of them really spec Prismatic Crystal in most cases. Because mages don't spec Prismatic Crystal, I didn't want to exactly include them as part of the list, but definitely an honorable mention. So for anybody who does have a mage, if you just want to go in BGs, have fun, deal some dumb damage once every 1.5 minute cooldown, then go ahead, grab your mage, grab Arcane, Frost, or Fire, drop Prismatic Crystal on your opponent and burst the crystal. The crystal is going to deal more damage to any enemies around them. Make sure it's just one enemy standing there. But because this mechanic is a main part of mechanic for the classes, for either one of the specs, not the talent they spec into, I had to just add an honorable mention. And the last class to get an honorable mention are rogues, whether you are assassination or subtlety. The reason I give an honorable mention rather than a spot on the list for rogues is mostly because of DFA and Envenom or Eviscerate being one of the hard-hitting abilities for rogues. While rogues can technically chunk, it takes a lot of setup and a lot of lineup compared to the classes we discussed earlier. Hell, they even take more of a lineup than a mage does. And even then, they don't have a guarantee that they'll chunk the enemy hard. It kind of depends on whether you crit or whether you don't. I mean, I was thinking maybe give it a soft spot and maybe make assassination more of a chunking spec, because technically you can go for the Vendetta, mark for the DFA, Vanish, and Venom kind of burst, where you deal basically 2 DFAs worth of damage with all your trinkets proc and mastery procs. But again, because it's not part of the main mechanic, there's CC, there's a lineup, there's a setup, that's the reason why it only gets an honorable mention. So here you go, guys, here's my list for classes that really do chunk. If you don't have a class that really chunks, and like for example, I play a rogue, there's a bit of setup, I know I play combat, which is not, I guess, as meticulous as subtlety. I do play subtlety myself as well, but playing combat or even subtlety or assassination and then swapping to a Marksman Hunter, which is literally a 2 buttons kill, it's kind of fun, it's kind of funny, kind of exciting, and kind of crazy. Definitely is a nice change up to the pace of always playing rogue for as long as I have been, and definitely something I would recommend for you guys to do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know which class are you thinking of leveling, or which class are you playing right now that really chunks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.